me, sir, let's start off here by asking you, how would you assess President Abdel Fattah El-Sisi's framing of Africa's new phase of construction and development?
From my point of view, I think that what the president talked about development and construction in Africa, it goes beyond Egypt's normal or influence, but it is a result of the cooperation and the relationships that have happened or that's been going on for years since 2014. Is Egypt's diplomacy has totally changed, and now since President El-Sisi has been in office, Egypt has reshaped the continent because of how historical Egypt's role has been, and not just Egypt is a part of Africa, and so this is why we've seen cooperation and agreement on logistics development and on counter-terrorism, supporting the African Union organizations and in other fields as well. And so Egypt's vision depends or sees that development is the real foundation for stability and security, and that we cannot have development without peace. And this is something that the president mentioned more than once. And so this is Egypt's role towards the African continent.
Okay, so to what extent does Africa Day remain a meaningful symbol of continental unity today?
Symbolism, and it is also protocol to remind the youth and the people living today of the efforts that were put before over the decades, and then it is also really important to assess where we stand on with the development and with the vision that they're working towards. And it is also a reminder that, as I said, there is no development without peace, security, and stability in the continent. As you know, there were a lot of attempts before to take over countries in the continent, and even after liberation happened, there was still some kind of occupation or of mental occupation.
Mm. Well, what about the legacy of the Organization of African Unity? Has that played a role in shaping the African Union's priorities at this point?
In supporting liberation and supporting the idea of political sovereignty, especially after supporting the new countries that emerged back then. But then definitely after all the challenges and after the colonialism challenges, we were bound to start a new era of cooperation and relationships, and through what we can see, the Organization of African Union has reaffirmed the importance of unity and solidarity, and now the African Union focuses on climate changes in Africa and security and stability as well.
Okay, if we could also have a look here at Egypt's role as a long-standing supporter of African integration. Can you tell us more about this role and why is it significant?
Egypt has a really influential role in the African continent, and it has had this role for decades. It has also a unique geographic positioning, and so it has always been ready and capable of being a link between the continent and other countries in the other continents. And Egypt has had lots of cooperation initiatives and always pushes toward advancing trade and infrastructure, and then also linking the energy and the trade routes, and then also in so many fields over the decades. Egypt has been able to fulfill its vision and its agenda, and so they could transfer this expertise to the neighboring countries in the continent.
Okay, well, how can the African states move from political solidarity to deeper economic integration in practical terms?
In my opinion, I am really hopeful, and I think that Africa has already entered a new era. Maybe it is not just about the political rhetoric now, but everyone realizes that the current challenges need more coordination, more cooperation, more African blocks, more local industry lines, and more trade. And yeah, we can see advancement on so many levels actually, and they'll be working towards that, so that the African continent can be of influence over the whole world, and not just within the region. As you know, there are 54 countries in the African continent, and a large number of people living in there, and so it takes up a huge part of the whole world. And so this is why it really needs to be that influential, and it needs to be treated equally as all the other countries in the world. And so I think that in the future we'll be seeing more fairness towards the African continent.
Well, sir, there's obviously some form of economic integration within the continent itself, but also due to what's happening globally, how vulnerable is Africa when it comes to rising global instability affecting these maritime routes and trade corridors? How can they effectively integrate economically given the geopolitical tensions?
Africa has definitely been affected heavily by the disruption of the supply chain in the maritime routes, because it depends heavily on importing or even sending materials through these routes that were closed, and the waterways that were closed. And definitely the Red Sea is what they use the most, the Suez Canal and the Bab el Mandeb Strait. And so any disruptions there can reflect heavily on the economy, and cause losses in Africa's economy. And then as I said, this continent especially has been heavily affected by everything that's been happening around the world, all the geopolitical tensions and all the disruptions to the supply chains that have happened, because it depends heavily on getting their needs through importing.
Well, since you said there's a heavy dependence on these shipping lanes, what concrete steps can African countries take to secure strategic shipping lanes so that they don't get affected?
The waterways, especially the Suez Canal, really affects the Red Sea, and it is vital actually for the global trade, especially for the east and for the east, west, and north of the continent. And so it has a huge role in so many things, even countering terrorism. And so Egypt plays a really important role here because of its expertise. But now and Egypt has been taking it upon itself to protect the continent, but now everyone needs to be on board. And so coordination, transferring expertise, and producing the equipment needed for security are all things that the countries around the continent need to cooperate on.
Okay, well, given what you just said there, why has waterway security become central when it comes to geopolitical issues within the African Union?
This is a really important file here. We're talking about the water that we need to drink, or even the waterways. And so this water scarcity, or even so many water, having drought or not. All of these are really important as things. And so this, as I said, this water file is really important. And with all the climate change that's been happening and the number of people getting or increasing day by day, and so any unilateral stance from or any unilateral actions from any of the countries in the continent can cause tensions for a continent that has witnessed lots of tensions already. And so this is why they need to cooperate and ensure solidarity and unity between the countries so that they can work on the water file. And this is why water has been the theme of this year.
Okay, I'm glad you brought up climate change there, because water scarcity is an issue right now. What are the risks of transboundary water disputes escalating into regional tensions?
Definitely it affects the development efforts in the continent, and the effects and outcomes really reflected heavily on the African countries that did not have that much of an important it has affected the quality of the land and on the production lines even. It has even affected the people living in Africa, and so this is why the climate change has been a real issue that all of the African countries have been working towards. And so the African continent also needs support from the countries all around the world, and it is for greater good.
Okay, if we can discuss international law here, how important is it to adhere to international law when it comes to resolving Africa's water and resources challenges?
International law needs to be the standard on which all the countries implement, and through which all the decisions can be taken, especially the countries that have important waterways like the Nile River, for example. And so, the Nile River goes through 11 countries, and so when we need the international law here to regulate how things can move between these countries and how cooperation should work. And this actually can reduce the chance of challenges and conflicts between the countries. And so implementing the law is always the way to go, and it should be the standard.
Okay, if we can talk a bit about the speech here. Now, it emphasized the Agenda 2063 for the continent. In your opinion, where does Africa currently stand in achieving these long-term development goals, and have we achieved or ticked off some of the boxes here?
Union, especially including and especially larger countries like Egypt, they have been trying to have a long-term project that has digital economy, infrastructure and stability as its foundation, and then also empowering women. And so as for the 2063 agenda and for the vision, we still have some years to go, but it won't be that hard, especially because of the youth. As you know, Africa has a large number of youth here, but yeah, the African countries are definitely witnessing some challenges, but still they can overcome these challenges if they want to, and if there is solidarity and unity between the African countries. And I think that I need you to realize that we're talking about 54 countries for this 2063 agenda, and each of these countries has its own situation and its own challenges. And so this is why 2063 will be really important for them, because they'll be working on each and every challenge in the countries. And I think that some countries have already had a boom in a lot of fields, but some countries still need support.